It's the definitive version nobody asked for. Today we're taking a trip back to the 90s as we review the all but forgotten first-person shooter, P.O.'d, which has been restored by 90's Studios. But did P.O.'d age like fine wine, or did it piss me off? Let's find out in our full review. Before we jump into the review, you should be pissed about the poor gaming coverage you've been receiving from the echo chambers of gaming, but no longer. Head over to patreon.com/idreamofindiegames and gain Discord access to the greatest indie gaming community, early ad-free shows, shoutouts at the end of every video we produce, an exclusive podcast, and yes, even free games depending which tier you select. Your new indie gaming community is waiting for you. When I've thought about games from the 90s that I'd love to see restored for modern times, I can't say P.O.'d is a release that ever came to mind. However, I do remember it quite well. I believe it was a rental for me at some point. I also remember P.O.'d being advertised in magazines like EGM and Die Hard Game Fan, and of course, it had that 90s attitude to it. Gross monsters, lewd content, and edgy humor. That's what much of the media was during the 90s, my personal favorite era for entertainment. P.O.'d was released on the ill-fated 3DO to little acclaim, and a bit later on the far more successful PlayStation. This title was inspired by games such as Doom and Quake, though the developers wanted to give it a bit of a feel of its own by making the levels larger and more open to exploration. In truth, Night Dive always would have had their work cut out for them with re-releasing this game and making it playable, as it was never anything special to begin with, in my opinion. Bad frame rates, poor map design, and ridiculous enemy AI plagued the original. While the studio has done a bang-up job of dusting off this relic of the past and correcting some of its issues, it still doesn't come close to earning a Michelin star. P.O.'d has you playing as a crazed chef who uses an assortment of kitchen items and other modern technology to battle evil aliens. For this version of the game, 90's Studios have once again done a masterful job of touching up the visuals while staying true to the original game. Frame rate issues have been eliminated, with players being able to enjoy the action at 144 FPS and a resolution of up to 4K. As nice as these updates are, P.O.'d still manages to feel pretty clunky and old. Being a first-person shooter, your goal is to get to the exit of a variety of different levels while battling butts that fart at you, bats, and other strange demons. Most of the game is set in a science fiction universe with you exploring various alien-like hallways and pathways. I should also mention the game has a toggle for if you want to hear the asses fart at you or not, perhaps the first and only time I've seen that in a game. That should give you an idea of what to expect out of P.O.'d as far as its sense of humor is concerned. The game features a decent assortment of weapons, from a frying pan to a flamethrower, and has plenty of platforming sections. Just as you probably guessed, first-person platforming isn't always great even today, and it was even worse in 1995, so for lack of better words, P.O.'d's jumping mechanics always felt floaty and, quite frankly, annoying. That remains true in this version of P.O.'d despite Night Dive's best efforts. The game is still a clunky mess with insane enemy AI and some of the worst map design I've dealt with in some time. P.O.'d was a bit of a turd back then, and it's more of a polished turd now. That said, there is a novelty and nostalgia to going through a game like P.O.'d even today, and it did have some unique ideas. As I mentioned, the levels are quite large, which is nice, though they tend to become confusing and labyrinth-like. You'll do plenty of aimless wandering throughout the campaign, and don't expect any help from the game's useless built-in map. What is helpful, however, is a jetpack that can blast you all the way to the top of a level and give you a better view of the overall map layout. The jetpack is admittedly a bit fun to use, as are many of the weapons. Another nice feature of the game is the various difficulty options it offers, along with the ability to re-enable classic cheats at the cost of gaining achievements. Players can also save at any time, which alleviates a little bit of the frustration they'll encounter. Even still, P.O.'d remains a clunky mess of a game that can only be recommended for nostalgia seekers. While the graphical restoration is admirable and some nice refinements have been made, it's just not enough for Night Dive to overcome what was a severely flawed release to begin with. I haven't even touched on the obnoxious grunt sounds every time your character takes a hit, or the strange lack of musical compositions on many of the levels. P.O.'d is for hardcore retro FPS enthusiasts only that have a strange desire to relive this campaign for whatever reason. Other than that, it may appeal to retro fans that missed out the first time and have a morbid curiosity, but not really anyone else.